Terrific. Thank you, Christina, our wonderful Pathways coordinator. We'd be lost without you. Love all the background knowledge you have, and all your technical expertise is superb as well. But now we are here to introduce our incredible Tracy Green. Tracy Green is a almost five times DTM, so a distinguished Toastmaster. She has been a past district director. She is incredibly engaged in the district in all sorts of areas, from educational sessions such as this on the Pathways team, as area director, and still engaged all over the place helping to support the members. And it's all about the member. So today, I was going to call you another past district director, Tracy Green. Today, our past district director is going to speak about the Toastmasters Promise and Pathways and how they connect. So love to welcome Tracy Green.
Thank you so much, Sue, who is our immediate past district director. I am going to share my screen and go through. Let me put that in presentation mode. Okay, can I get a thumbs up if you can see my screen and I'm sharing in presentation mode? Thank you, Sue. I saw your thumbs up. Awesome. I'm not sure whether or not you read Christine's flyer. And Christine's flyer was the Toastmasters Promise and Pathways and how they are connected. She also had a little spiel, which was not only about how is it connected for Pathways, how is a promise connected to becoming a better speaker and better leader. So in keeping that in mind, I thought the first thing I think that we need to do is look at what is the Toastmasters Promise? How does it connect to Pathways? How does it connect to becoming a better speaker? How does it connect to becoming a better leader? And if you've not seen it, there is a fabulous flyer, which is about your path to leadership. And that's the connection of Pathways and leadership within Toastmasters. And of course, a conclusion. Now, this is where I'm going to have audience interaction, because I'm going to see whether or not I'm aligned to your thinking of where we could break down the Toastmasters Promise into those areas of Pathways, speaking, and leadership. Let's look at the Toastmasters Promise. Can I get a hands up? Who knows the Toastmasters Promise off by heart? I'm looking. Anybody? No hands up. Tisk, tisk, tisk. That is homework. Let's challenge ourselves and see whether or not we can memorize the Toastmasters Promise. Okay, my next question is, how many clubs reference the Toastmasters Promise at the beginning of their meeting? Nobody? I see some shaking of the heads, a couple of thumbs up. Maybe that's something that we can incorporate in our own club meetings. And you're probably wondering why. I know about this. It's in the background. The Toastmasters Promise, and the reason that we wanted to incorporate the Toastmasters Promise in one of these pathway presentations is it's fundamental. It's fundamental to the club itself and the quality of your meeting, the members and what the members get out of it. But it has points in there. And if we're truly dedicated Toastmasters and we're following the promise, then of course we are engaged and we will be following the Pathways educational program. All right, so let's look at this list and let's break it down and see what we think fits with either Pathways, speaking, or leadership. The very first one, to attend club meetings regularly. And you can take yourselves off mute. Who thinks that attending a club regularly adds to either your Pathways education program, speaking, or leadership?
All three.
Yeah, definitely.
Exactly. So, Michael, you were first. Why do you think it adheres to all 3 points?
Well, if you're attending meetings regularly, you're doing things within Pathways. So if you're speaking, you need to be doing pathway speeches because they're the only speeches we're allowed to do. It's by attending, you're taking up roles, you're showing leadership within those roles.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're taking up roles, regardless of which roles they are, you're doing some speaking. And by doing some speaking, we are improving our ways of speaking.
Absolutely perfect. Spot on. Attending a meeting and attending regularly means that we're engaged in our club. So we value our own growth, and that's why we're attending, because we're investing in ourselves. I mean, I know some people say they just join Toastmasters for fun, but ultimately, aren't we all investing in ourselves because it's an opportunity to grow? And the growth could be in leading, taking on one of the leadership positions. And that leadership position could be the MC of the meeting, the Toastmaster of the meeting. That's a leadership position. It could be being a club executive. You know, maybe being the president, and after the Sergeant at Arms opens, maybe welcoming the visitors and guests. That's a leadership position. These are opportunities that are available at every single meeting. So there's opportunities to lead, to speak, and of course, they always reference the Pathways education program. The next point in your Toastmasters Promise is to prepare all my projects. This is what I'm promising, to prepare all my projects to the best of my ability and basing them on the Toastmasters education program. Which one do we think that fits with? Pathways, speaking, or leading?
All three again.
All three again. And so why do we think it's all three again?
Same reasons.
I agree. Whilst you look at that and you think it is primarily focused on the Pathways education program, if we as members are following the Toastmasters education program, which is Pathways, then of course we're leading by example, because we're supporting the promise and we're supporting the education program in itself. And then of course, whatever project we're undertaking could have a leadership component to it, or we're leading by example by demonstrating that we adhere to the Toastmasters Promise. I completely concur with you, Michael. It adheres to all three aspects. Okay, the next point is to prepare for and fulfill meeting assignments. Well, I can see Michael nodding. It's all three. You could break them down and think that they are very specific to one of those elements, but ultimately they really do cover all three, because of number one, by preparing for and fulfilling my meeting assignments, it means that I'm an engaged member. I'm adhering to the promise because I'm going to prepare for my meeting. So I'm volunteering to take on roles. My role for a meeting could be anything from speaking at the meeting or evaluating at the meeting, being the grammarian, providing the word of the day and feedback on language used. It could be the counter. It could even be the general evaluator or even a timer. Number one is volunteering for the role. And then number two is preparing for that role. And so it's about doing your homework beforehand, especially if it's a new role for you. For example, if you've never timed before, it's about understanding what is the expectation of a timer. How do I undertake my role as a timer? There are so many points of material that you can gain from the Toastmasters International website under resources. But the key is you have your fellow members. I'm sure that there are experienced people within your club that you can ask. And if you're not sure, then maybe find out whether or not you can be assigned a mentor. And a mentor can help you in your Toastmasters journey. Any questions you may have in preparing for your role is something that you could go to your mentor with. And I think someone in an earlier presentation talked about having a Pathways ambassador or somebody who's assigned in your club to guide you regarding pathways. That could be another person that you could approach. But what you're demonstrating, if you're preparing fully for a role before your meeting, is that you are adhering to the Toastmasters Promise and you're an engaged member. You're leading by example and you value yourself, because we all know what it's like. If you go into something unprepared and you're nervous, what element does that add for you? It puts you under unnecessary pressure and stress. Remove that element completely. Go in prepared. Do your homework. The next is to provide fellow members with helpful and constructive evaluations. How's that of benefit? Does it fit pathways? Does it fit speaking? And does it fit leading? And if anybody can see Michael, he's of course, and Christine, again, it follows all three elements. If we're providing members with helpful and constructive evaluations, we could be doing that as part of our pathway educational because it is a project within level 1. So level 1, project 2, part 3 is giving an evaluation. So we could be doing that. It also gives us an opportunity to speak at a meeting because, of course, we give our evaluations typically verbally. I know you have your written form, but we use the opportunity for a 2 to 3 minute speech to give an evaluation. And that's where, of course, not only are you learning to give constructive feedback through your evaluation speech, you're also learning how to be concise, to fit within your time allocated. And of course, if we're following that recommendation, we're leading by example again. So I completely agree. All three elements. To help the club maintain the positive, friendly environment necessary for all members to learn and grow. Which one do we think that fits with? There we go. If you can see Christine and Michael, they're very helpful audience members, and they say it's all three. So let's think about that. How does providing a positive, friendly environment fit with pathways? Who wants to speak to that?
It goes back to using pathways as your method of learning speeches and doing those sorts of things. It's about being positive, being friendly is what pathways is all about.
And I also think that when we're being positive and friendly, it does create an environment that's enticing. I mean, the people who join multiple clubs and maintain length in their membership typically do it because that club, the environment in that club, and what the members within that club generate is enough to entice you to keep returning. And that is that you feel valued, you feel supported, and of course, who doesn't like having some fun in their meeting? I certainly do. I mean, that's one of the reasons I've been a Toastmaster for 11 years. I still find it so much fun. It's incredibly enjoyable. And I get the vibe from, I mean, I don't know who struggled with Zoom versus face-to-face. I'm a lover of the face-to-face because for me, I get lots of energy from the energy within the room. Whereas when it's two-dimensional in Zoom, I have to use my own energy to sustain my level within the meeting. And that does take more work. And it took me a while to realize that. And now I am fully engaged in the benefits I get from being in a meeting face to face. That energy, that buzz, I certainly love that vibe. So environment is incredibly important. And the environment is driven by all of the members collectively. And if we're all adhering to the Toastmasters Promise, the Pathways program, what are we going to do? We're leading by example. The next one here is to serve my club as an officer when called upon to do so. Okay, we can see all three. Someone asked earlier about how does Pathways relate to the DTM? Okay, this is one of the activities you will need to undertake if you are focused on achieving your Distinguished Toastmasters. So irrespective of whether or not you were in the legacy system or you're in Pathways, a leadership position is still just as valuable and is part of your DTM. And so serving as a club officer, I personally think not only does it fit with the pathway educational system, but it gives you lots of speaking opportunities depending on which role you take, because at a meeting, we will want our executives engaged. And at most meetings, you'll have typically your sergeant at arm will speak, your president will speak, your VPE will speak, your vice president of education, and sometimes even your treasurer will speak. And if we've got visitors, then often my VPM, vice president of membership, will speak. If we're advertising something new, then maybe even my VPPR, vice president of public relations, may speak. So there is a speaking opportunity when you're part of the executive team. And of course, I think it always comes back to leading by example. If you want to inspire others to do what you're doing, then leading by example means that I will be actively participating in all of what we've just gone through in the Toastmasters Promise, including actively serving as a club officer. Next is to treat my fellow club members and our guests with respect and courtesy. I think that should just go without saying, personally. I don't think it needs to sit under a Toastmasters Promise, and it's a bit of a worry that we need to remind ourselves that we should do that. But really, if you're thinking about it, when you're in an environment with people, we all come with our own views. We all come with our own thoughts, our own experiences. However, if we're all treated with respect and courtesy, it means that we're accepted as those individuals and we're all contributing whatever we bring to the table to the club environment. And respect and courtesy is incredibly important. And we can see when there's been a lack of respect and courtesy within society, what happens. You just need to watch the news to see what's happening in other areas of the world. Okay, the next one is bring guests to club meetings so that they can see the benefits of Toastmaster, of what the Toastmaster membership offers. Do we think that fits with all three? Michael's nodding his head. Yes, he thinks it's all three. And so when I think about bringing guests to club meetings, for me personally, it's because I see the value in Toastmasters. I want to share that joy with other people. If anyone says to me that they are interested in investing in themselves and they want to grow in their own professional development, then I personally think that Toastmasters is essential. I mean, hands up, who has listened to the news or been at work and heard an executive speak and you think, number one, they didn't speak to time. Number two, there was no structure. Number three, ums and ahs.
All the freaking time. All right.
And then I think to myself, wow, wouldn't they benefit from being a member of Toastmasters?
Yeah.
Yes. And again, so I agree with Michael. I think it relates to all three. Because if I'm wanting to promote Toastmasters, which is what we all agree that we're going to do as part of the Toastmasters Promise, and as part of being a member of our club, you want your club to be sustainable. And being sustainable means that we do need to continue to grow, because we know that there is going to be natural it's going to go through natural evolutions where your members maybe have other things that will take their time and energy, which means that they may put it on hold for a while, or they achieve whatever they've set out to achieve as part of their membership. And so there'll be natural evolution between your club growing over time. So if we're all focused on promoting the value we get from our Toastmasters journey, and we are adhering to the Toastmasters Promise, then we will be sharing the world news. And hopefully our friends, colleagues, maybe even family will come along. I've certainly been in a few clubs where family members are encouraged. One of my clubs, my first club, we had the father. The father then brought a son, then another son, then another son, and then a daughter. And that club then had 4 family members. Why? Because they all saw the value. They saw the growth their father was getting and then thought, hey, this is working for him. I want some of that, and came to the meetings. They had their own goals, and 2 achieved the goals that they had wanted to take them where they needed to go in their careers, and 2 stayed and continue to support each other. I see husbands and wives. I see siblings. That is an example of where we're sharing the value that we get from Toastmasters, and that inspires others to come and join. So bringing guests to club meetings so that they can see the benefits is crucial, not only for us, our club, but it's about other people having that opportunity. Let's look at the next one. The next one is to adhere to the guidelines and rules for all Toastmasters education and recognition programs. Yes, I can see you, Michael. Do we think it adheres to all three? Yes, of course it does. Now, this is an interesting point. I was at a club meeting recently, and don't tell anybody. They brought out the old legacy program manual and gave it to somebody to be able to do a speech from. That really, for me, goes against the promise, because how do we ensure that everybody is following the Pathways program if we ourselves don't adhere to the rules and guidelines? This goes back to the lead by example. What I did was, fortunately, I carry spare copies of evaluation forms with me. This individual was going to be doing their second project. I was able to give them a copy of the evaluation form, which has the purpose statement. They could still do the same speech that they had planned to do, because, of course, we have opportunities within the pathway journey to pick our own subject material. But the key element that I wanted to instigate was that they use the current Pathways educational program. So a tip would be, if you're in a leadership position, or if not, you can lead by example. Why don't you carry spare copies with you? You never know when that might be called upon. So adhering to the guidelines and rules for the Toastmasters Education Recognition Program, I think, is critical to the success of every single one of us embracing Pathways, which is the education program for Toastmasters. The next point we have, and I'm just going to have to move the banner so I can see. Where are we? Go back up.
Last one. To conduct. To act.
Got it. There we go.
Core values.
Okay, right. So the final point is to act within Toastmasters' core values of integrity, respect, service, and excellence during the conduct of all Toastmasters activities. This goes without saying and ties in with treating my fellow club members and our guests with respect and courtesy. I think that they're all fundamental. If we are all operating with that mindset, then what a wonderful experience each one of us will gain from our membership journey. And you know then that if we're all adhering to respect, courtesy, integrity, and we're providing excellence, our quality of our experience, our journey, and our club meeting is at an incredibly high standard. And we are all each empowered to do that. So for me, the Toastmasters Promise really adheres to all three. When I initially went through looking at the promise and how do I break it down, I thought that you could argue that there are very specific points to education, to speaking, and to leadership. However, I think fundamentally every single one of those, and I agree with both Michael and Christina, they all adhere to elements of the Pathways education system. They provide opportunities for speaking, irrespective of whether it's a formal speech from the Pathway program or not. It gives you opportunities for speaking, and we all have an opportunity to lead. And when I say lead, it's lead by example at all times. Even if you don't have a leadership position at that point in time in your club, you are empowered to lead. The other point before I finish up is that we have an updated flyer on Toastmasters International about your path to leadership. And this breaks down the potential that you get depending on what your goal and objective is. And all elements of being a member of Toastmasters give you an opportunity to be a leader. So for me, how does the Toastmasters Promise connect with Pathways? Every single point connects to Pathways, and Pathways is our education system. Do we have any questions? Let me see how I'm going for time. Oh, we have a quick moment for questions. I will stop sharing so that I can see if we have any questions in the chat box. Let me see. Not a question, but I have to leave. Oh. Thank you, Michael, for reiterating in capital letters. You can speak on anything in level 1. That's a very important point to raise. Thank you. Oh, and you have some thanks very much from Sarah Jane. So thank you so much, Sarah Jane, for joining us. And hopefully you've got something from the education that we have provided today.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
If we don't have any questions specific to the Toastmasters Promise, then what I might do is hand back to our Toastmaster, Sue, and this will allow us more time for the panel discussion. Over to you, Madam Sue, immediate past District Director and Toastmaster for the session.